Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Docs Huddle, your gateway to an in depth connection between sports medicine and the latest events in sports, fantasy, and betting. Today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well being. I'm Dr. Mikey B. With me, as always, the legend, Dr. MJB. All right, we got breaking news today. A bit of a quicker show. CJ, the sports enthusiast, is off. We might have the pleasure of him joining us later, but he's out there saving the world. Can't really tell you what he's doing with his secret clearance, but we know he's doing something for us. So we thank CJ. And yep, without further ado, let's get to it. So, breaking news. Let's hear it. The legend, break it for us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful Monday afternoon, I decided to bring a little spice to life because we have some spicy news for you. All right, today we have the Steelers and Dolphins being involved in a trade here.
Blockbuster trade.
Blockbuster, big time news. You don't really hear much at this point in the offseason, but my goodness, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So we have the Dolphins trading Jalen Ramsey, cornerback Jalen Ramsey, tight end Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 seventh round pick. Okay, to the Steelers. The Dolphins receive from the Steelers safety Mika Fitzpatrick and a 2027 fifth round pick. Now, Mike, I was at work. I was like, whoa, this clearly changed what we're talking about on the show today.
Yeah. I mean, when I shot you that message about the trade, was I the one who broke the news to you, or did you get it at work?
No, so what's funny is you text me. My other friends group chat texted me, and then ESPN on my app where we do fantasy football blew up too. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I got all the updates. I was like, right from Schefter, he sent it out. I'm like, oh, immediately got on the phone and sent it to you and CJ to let you guys know a bit about the big news. I mean, this is pretty big. I understand that. Well, first off, let's break down our feelings on the trade, or let me start over. Before we talk about our feelings of the trade, let's break down why it likely happened. I mean, Jalen Ramsey's contract was exponential, right? We all knew that he was going to get traded this offseason. As you know, you and I's second favorite team being the Miami Dolphins, it's hard to see a guy of that talent go. But when you can't afford someone, you can't afford someone. And they just simply couldn't afford him. So I understand the shipping off Jalen Ramsey to, the best buyer, which was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jonnu Smith, I found, was interesting. He wanted a contract extension. He was trying to work something out. I thought that it was going to get done, being that he's from Miami, went to FIU, trains in Miami in the offseason, right? Drew Rosenhaus is his agent, who is stationed in Miami. So I thought for sure that they were going to keep Jonnu in Miami. They're going to find a way to restructure his contract. When I saw this was the most surprising part of the trade for me from the Miami Dolphin side, what they were offering was I did not think that they were going to get rid of their not second best, but their best, right? Not Cheetah, their best offensive producer in last season was Jonnu Smith by the numbers. And then they just got rid of him. So I found that shocking. Yeah. And then Minka Fitzpatrick, I think, was very interesting that they shopped him back to where he was drafted in Miami. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think from Dolphins' perspective, man, I think they're trying to save money. And, salary cap is an issue for them. So I think they're trying to go younger while also shaving money, right? While also trying to save money. From what I'm seeing, they don't have a ton of cap room, so they need to capitalize on moments like this. And from the Steelers standpoint, and I'm curious to ask you. I think that is interesting of the timing for both. So much later than the draft. I wonder if they've been talking for a while, or they're trying to reach out to other teams to see if they can potentially get a better deal, and kind of came down to settle with this. Like you, I was shocked with the Jonnu Smith addition to everything. I thought if they were going to do this trade, it would have just been for both the defensive players and then the draft picks. I feel like that would have sufficed because you're sacrificing money on top of that too. So the fact that they threw in the tight end too, I was like, whoa, okay. But I think both teams are looking at it from two different standpoints. I think one team's like, hey, we got Aaron Rodgers and we don't know for how long or what we're actually getting, but let's go all in on him. And you got another team that wants to save money, get younger, and potentially create something that's sustainable for years to come. So then, Mike, my question to you: who won the trade, dude? Who won the trade?
You know, I'm going to counter this with a scenario to give you my answer. They just signed Aaron Rodgers, $10 million a year, right? They just signed both. So not only did they trade for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, taking on those contracts, but they gave both of them an extension, an increase in salary. So not only did they trade for their already high contracts, they're giving them both more money, which goes to show you how much the Steelers are valuing both Jalen and Jonnu. However, who's still holding out and got fined for not showing up to minicamp in Pittsburgh? TJ Watt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they can't come to an agreement and can't afford TJ Watt, I can't say that the Steelers won this trade. Because I think that this trade is great. And I think that you're getting an underrated player in Jonnu Smith. I think he's going to be fantastic as long as we see Rodgers perform and provide some level of production. And, Jalen, I still think still has something in the tank. I don't think he's in his prime of his career. Like, I think Minka is actually more in his prime than Jalen at this point. However, if you can't sign TJ Watt because of these acquisitions, I can't say that this was the better trade for the Steelers. Now, on the flip side, the Dolphins, you traded away another one of your captains. So now 3 of your 5 captains you trade away. Your 4th captain is Tyreek Hill, who will not be a captain this year. It's already been deemed that. He needs to earn back the respect of the entire organization. And the entire organization is putting out a lot on Tyreek Hill to provide some level of offensive production, because now not only does he have to come back stronger from last year because he didn't play well, but their top offensive playmaker is no longer on the team. I just think that, this provides a gaping hole on the offensive side of the ball. And let me tell you something. Their cornerback position is not that great either. It does help solve this. Does help solve the safety issue, because we know that they lost Javon Holland over to the Giants, right, in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a stud safety. So I think that having brought Minka in is going to really help them in that regard. But the corner position is a big problem. We knew that Jalen wasn't going to be there anyway, so I would have hoped that they did a better job addressing this corner position this offseason, because we already knew he wasn't going to be there. So that's why I'm saying more or less that this provides another hole in the offense that I don't love. So to be honest with you, I don't know who won this trade. I think that it comes down to if the Steelers can manage to retain TJ Watt, sign him, they're probably going to be the ones that make out the best if you get production from Aaron Rodgers this season. What are your thoughts?
I think everything you're saying is absolutely valid. I struggled with picking who won the trade too, but I leaned towards the Steelers for the simple fact that, listen, the Steelers have been a fringe playoff team, like sneaking their way in, not doing much, getting in, or having a win season and not making the playoffs. I think it's the time has come where that's enough. Like, are you a good team and are going to get it done, or do we have to blow this up? And I think now is finally the time where I'm seeing them put emphasis on that. Before it was like, oh, well, we're decent enough, we're watchable, we'll probably make playoffs, but won't do much else after that for years, dude. And I got tired of it. So I think this is really a testament. This is a really testament to see, is Mike Tomlin the guy? And I like Mike Tomlin. So it's curious to see, hey, are you the guy? Can you make this happen with what we put around you? And if not, do we need to move on? And I know some people may be like, "Oh, yeah, you're crazy. He's had 10 winning seasons." For me personally, that doesn't mean much unless you actually do something with it. Like, I'd rather, in my opinion, as a fan, if you ask me for the Carolina Panthers, I'd rather have one season where we made it to the Super Bowl and won it than to have 10 seasons where we had a winning season or barely made playoffs. I'd rather win it, in my opinion. So for me, I think Steelers putting all their eggs in one basket to kind of see what they can get from this and see how well Mike Tomlin can coach his team. I think for that, I give them the edge. But Dolphins, even though I give Steelers the edge, I'm not mad at what the Dolphins did, right? Like they like I said, they needed to save money. They did that. They got younger. They took back some draft capital. A fifth is always better than a seventh, right? So like they're finding ways to still maneuver their roster and make it and still be relevant while also rebuilding at the same time. And that's going to create sustained success for a while if it works out that way. So I don't think there's a loser in this, but I do think, in my opinion, the clear-cut winner would have been the Steelers.
I agree. I think that, unfortunately, for how the Dolphins' cap situation currently is, it set the Steelers up to have a greater success in this trade because the Dolphins, right, what's not on paper, right, what's not being, written on this trade is money. And they just simply couldn't afford it to keep players because of the money situation. So, they offed the money issues and they got something back in return for it. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think you can make an argument that of the three players currently in their prime, Minkah is probably the most impactful. It's just that safety is not a premium position in this league. But I think Minkah is still in his prime. I think he's very, very good. So, I mean, it'll be nice to see him back down there in Miami. I want to touch on one thing that you did mention. So going back to Mike Tomlin and they needing to get it done, I completely agree. Let's go back in some NFL history here. We're going to stay in the AFC North. And the Cincinnati Bengals used to have a coach. I'm sure you remember him. He went by the name of Marvin Lewis. Okay. Marvin Lewis, had made the playoffs 7 times in his tenure with the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay. And he was 0-7 in the playoffs. So he consistently made it to the playoffs. I remember this vividly as a younger fan. The Bengals are always in the playoffs. Never, ever, ever did they advance, not once. And so eventually they moved on from him, and it was like, oh my God, they just fired Marvin Lewis. They had the best Bengals team they've had in my lifetime. They made it to the playoffs again, lost first round, and boom, he got the boot. And everyone was like, how'd that happen? Well, yeah. Eventually, we need to make the next jump. Now, granted, after that happened, they plummeted for the next couple of years. But the next thing you know, you get a good draft pick. You start revamping things. They have Joe Burrow. They go all the way to the AFC Championship game, so on and so forth. So I think that it's imperative that the Steelers show us something this season.
Yeah. And all honesty, I don't even think they have enough. Like,
I agree. I don't think so either.
I like what they're trying to do, and for right reasoning, I think they needed to do it because the time is of the essence. But I don't think it's enough. Like, I'm looking at their roster. I do like their defense, and I'll just throw out some guys' names.
Right? Always, the defense is always good. Yeah.
So they run a base 3-4. They still have Cameron Hayward. They still have T.J. Watt. They have Patrick Queen. They have Peyton Wilson. Not sure if you remember him out of NC State. Yep. They have in the secondary, at least at corner, you have
the corners are pretty good right now.
Joey Porter, Jalen Ramsey,
third corner, right?
And Darius Slay, dude.
Yeah, they got Darius Slay, and now they got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, Joey Porter's going to what is his third year, right? At FSU, so he's going right, and I know that he hasn't been as productive as they had hoped in his first 2 seasons, but none of the corners that came out that year have been as productive. Deontay Banks, Christian Gonzalez, like they've all been okay. They haven't taken a big leap. So, I mean, I think that this acquisition really fortifies their secondary, at least at the cornerback position. And
Yeah,
obviously, they have a big hole now at safety, but
right. But we both know they're with a good D line like that, that can mask some things on the back end. So I think defensively they'll be okay. Offensively is why I worry, dude. One, what
absolutely.
is Aaron Rodgers going to look like? I do think he plays better than he did last season because we both know a year plus out from an Achilles tear is when a player truly starts to show like he's getting back to
Completely agree.
form, right? That first year
Completely
they're
agree.
still going through recovery processes and just getting acclimated to the game, right? You're not playing as fearfully or apprehensive as you once were the year that you are returning back from injury. So we don't know what that's going to look like. I do like Jalen Warren. I'm a huge fan of him. You have DK Metcalf. I have concerns of DK Metcalf. He's a good receiver, but getting in and out of breaks have always been a struggle for him. And to ask him, Aaron Rodgers thrives off that, dude.
Terrible 3-cone drill, by the way.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers thrives off that. All his receivers that he's had that great relationship with, especially with Devontae, have a
Yeah.
tendency to get in and out of breaks very quickly and can set
Yeah,
up
they create
defenders.
separation in their route.
Yeah, DK's a manimal, yeah, but I don't see. I think that's going to take some time to develop. Not a huge fan of Robert Woods, which they have. It's
He's
like
on the
I'm looking
back
at
end
the
of his career.
yeah, and I'm looking at the rest of like the guys on offense. It's like they're okay. It's not like whoa, this team is stacked. So despite all that, I don't think that this is enough, dude. I think there's still plenty of other teams that are better than them in the AFC. But I do like that they're being aggressive because I think they've been too laid back for too long, even though I don't feel like the Aaron Rodgers move was aggressive. You waited forever for him. But
Yeah,
overall, I feel like the moves that they're trying to make are indicative of, hey, it's now or never. And if it's not going to happen, we need to move on.
I agree. I think you're going to see them run a lot of 12 personnel
Yeah.
because Pat Fryermuth is also um, he's a formidable tight end. He's not going to give you that level of elusiveness, and I don't think he's as great of a downfield threat as Jonnu Smith is. So now having the both of them is going to help. I heard a report also that the number one team this free agency that was trying to inquire about wide receiver acquisitions were the Pittsburgh Steelers, which means they're very aware that this is an issue, and that's why they got DK Metcalf. I also think that that's why they pushed and got Jonnu Smith here because if they couldn't get another wide receiver, they needed another weapon. And Jonnu is a very talented tight end that he's going to give you a lot to offer in that tight end position. You could put him in the slot and have him do some funky stuff in there, have him off the wing, right? Like you can do a lot of different things. Put him in the backfield. I like him off the wing better, but so I think that you're getting a weapon in Jonnu Smith, just not just a tight end. And when you need to worry about downhill blocking, you keep Patton or you run the 12 personnel. So I'm not saying that's the answer, but I think it's another step in the right direction because, boy, do they need it.
Oh, 1,000%, dude. 1,000%. I actually think Jalen Ramsey has a bounce back season just based off. I think the pass rush is going to be a lot better in Pittsburgh than in Miami. And honestly, in Miami, it was hard to even quantify how well their pass rush is when guys just kept dropping like flies throughout the season. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but all in all, yeah, I don't think that Pittsburgh has enough. And then on the Miami standpoint, I think they'll still be relevant because I think they still have an explosive offense. The defense doesn't scare me at all. They have some young talent there. Like I like Jalen Phillips. I like Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
If he shows up this year, they still have Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
So they have a few guys that I'm a fan of. Obviously, they have Minka now. He's back in Miami. So I think they're starting to build that. And I think their point is just stay relevant until we can find the necessary pieces and then push forward where Pittsburgh's like, we need to win tomorrow.
I agree. I think the health of that defense is going to play a big role because Jalen Phillips is such a good talent. He's just
He
always
is.
hurt.
Yep.
And I really mean this. I think he is a very, very big difference on that defense. Where if he's not on that field, I watched a ton of Miami football last year. When he was no longer on that field, it was felt. And I think that Chop Robinson's production is not good enough. He's a Robin. He's not a Batman. So, we need guys like Jalen Phillips still on the field if we want to see Chop Robinson's production. Whether or not they're on the field at the same time, it's just the fact that he's constantly in giving different looks, I think is going to help with Chop Robinson's production. I am petrified about the cornerback scenario in Miami.
Oh, for sure. I was also going to throw out that they have Kenneth Grant too.
Yes.
D tackle from Michigan from first round.
Yes,
pick.
Which I am happy about. So, they've made some improvements there I'm not as concerned about the front seven. It's like you got the front seven and Minka.
Yeah. Corners are Storm Duck. I've never heard of this guy.
Dude, I was looking at that too.
Jason Marshall Jr.
Jesus.
Never heard of this guy. Yeah. And one's number is 33. The other number is 36, dude.
It's going to be
ugly. I don't want any of my cornerbacks earning numbers in the 30s unless they're at safety.
Right. Yeah. Well put. It's very concerning. It's very, very concerning. I think that they also have now a gaping hole at the tight end position.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it's a big deal because when your tight end last year was your main offensive weapon, what are we going to do here? I'm not saying that it wasn't necessary and that they needed to come to an agreement or shop Jonnu. I get it, but we need a contingency plan. I'm concerned. I know that I think I'm a little more concerned about their offense than you are. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. I mean, and then the other question mark in Miami, unrelated to this trade, but it's worth having the conversation. Like that quarterback room is very interesting, Mike.
Tua. Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So we got
backups too.
Yeah, I'm talking about Zach Wilson. You got Quinn Ewers, right? Like, you were big on Quinn, weren't you?
Yeah. Listen, I think that if Tua doesn't have a good season, I know they have like Zach Wilson slated to be his backup. I think Quinn Ewers can win that job. I think Quinn Ewers just lost confidence at some point. He's returning from injury. The game is fast, man. Everyone's been well acclimated to the season. They're playing at a fast speed. He just didn't have the time to catch up, and it overwhelmed him. I think that he's still talented. I think he can play. It didn't show that, towards the back half of the season, but I still think he's talented. Dude, he came into the season as one of the highly rated quarterbacks and it was expected to be drafted high, but season didn't turn out the way that we expected it to, and I think for that he plummeted. But yeah, I'm not sold on Tua, so he will probably get an opportunity at some point to showcase that ability.
And don't forget, I agree with everything you said, and don't forget, this is based off of mini camp, right? We haven't even put pads on, so training camp comes if Zach Wilson starts seeing ghosts, like he could easily jump from the third to the second spot on this roster if he shows up, if he produces, So we'll wait and see. Obviously Tua is the guy, but you have to have a contingency plan in Miami because we have to assume you're not going to get, full 17 games out of Tua.
Correct.
And when he went down last year, there was no offense. It was abysmal. It was so painful. I'll never forget. I was at the last game of the season, sitting in one of the boxes. I had the privilege of doing that, watching Aaron Rodgers and the Jets playing the Dolphins, and the Jets won. And it was just so awful. And the pathetic thing about this whole thing was that I believe it was the Broncos, if I remember correctly, if the Broncos lost, So we were watching the game in the box where I had the Broncos game here and then the Dolphins here. If the Broncos lost and the Dolphins won, they were actually going to get the wild card. And obviously, the Broncos won. They moved on, and then the game became irrelevant. But it didn't matter because if the Broncos had gotten shut out, the Dolphins had no shot because they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
It was so painful. And I just, as a fan between the Giants and the Dolphins, I am just so scared going into this season. I can't have another season of just the same stuff. Is it scary that I actually have more faith in the New York Giants than I do in the Miami Dolphins?
No, none at all. Because
that's problematic.
Well, our teams have been so bad that we can only go up.
For those of you listening, the Legends team is, in fact, the Carolina Panthers, who also are abysmal. So,
can you imagine if our teams are actually worse, dude, than what they've been? Oh my gosh! But expectations are a lot lower because of that. So, like, even if we won 3 more games than we did last season, we'll take that as a win. Dolphins, man. At one point, we thought maybe they're a piece or two away from trying to make it to the championship, and they've regressed.
2 years ago, sure.
They regressed so far back, and it's like, whoa, what's happening? That's why it's like you lose faith because they're losing so many guys and not replacing them, where we're losing guys who were replaceable and we're replacing them. So it's just a matter of putting it all together and seeing if we can win. But I'm excited for both of our teams this year because I think, if nothing else, we'll at least see competitive football, and that's what we want at this point. Dolphins fans, they want more than that. So expectations for them are a lot different.
Completely, no offense, but as they should be, right? Like with the product we saw on the field 2 years ago, I truly believe that they should be producing that. But honestly, the roster that stands today, I don't think is anywhere near as strong as what it was 2 years ago. I really don't.
No. If the Panthers had to play the Dolphins tomorrow, I don't know, man. I flip a coin. I can't say that I expect the Dolphins to win that game. I can't say that, dude. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Call me crazy on a Monday, but I just don't see it.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think that that's very valid. I mean, and what are your thoughts? I mean, again, we're going off the trade a little bit here, but what are your thoughts currently? We talked about Mike Tomlin, right? And we talked about what we thought he was and what he needs to do, where the Steelers need to go within the next season or two, with these acquisitions. We talked about how he's starting to look like the Marvin Lewis of this generation in that regard. Thoughts on Mike McDaniel, coach of the Dolphins, head coach of the Miami Dolphins. What are your expectations of him going into this season? What do we need to see from him to know that things are still going in the right direction in regards to him as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins? Because I personally think that this is an even more difficult conversation than the Mike Tomlin one.
Yeah, man, that's tough. Man. I think that who's it, Bills. Who else is in the AFC East? Bills, Dolphins, Jets. I'm
Patriots.
missing one. Patriots. They, at worst, I feel like they have to make playoffs, man. Like, in order for him to solidify himself and buy himself more time, I think they have to make playoffs. If they don't, that means that Tua probably had a bad season, and you're on a hot seat at that point. I think if he doesn't have a decent season this year, he's on a hot seat, and that decent season for me would be at least making playoffs. I don't expect them to be better than Buffalo, but I still expect the Dolphins to be better than both the Jets and Patriots. I know those teams are getting better, but I don't know. And then if Patriots take that leap forward, which potentially they can, I think that's a very bad look for Mike Daniels, right? Patriots did a good job at trying to give themselves a chance to win by adding a bunch of key acquisitions in the offseason, right? They end up getting Stephon Diggs. They end up getting Milton from the Eagles. Like they got some guys, like they drafted well. So it's like if they take the leap over the Dolphins, I think that leaves a bad taste in a lot of fans and ownership's mouth in terms of where the Dolphins currently are. But I think they have to be a fringe playoff team that does get in, and then he can buy himself more time. Anything less than that, I think it's a disappointment because it's like you made the playoffs that one time and you never did it again. So now your job's in question.
I agree with the fringe playoff team. I think we need to see what the production is out of the quarterback play to give me a better understanding of what my expectations are going to be. Because I agree. You can't rely all on Tua, and then if Tua goes down, like that's it, it's over. But part of that is on Mike McDaniel. Part of that is on the GM and making sure that we have enough to continue and not lose the entire season if the quarterback goes down. Much easier said than done. I feel like if Tua goes down this season, it's over. We're moving on from fucking Tua. Because you can't throw your eggs in the Tua basket again. That's it. Like, you've done it so many goddamn times. It cannot continue. And
for sure.
The problem is looking at that roster. We just broke everything down. They just traded away Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, two of their best players. It was two of their best players. Okay? Yes, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who comes in, is now one of their best players. So, say what it is. If they're a fringe playoff team, assuming that they come in second, Bills win the AFC East. Let's for fun, Ravens win the AFC North. Okay, say the Texans win the AFC South. That division's awful. And then let's say the Chiefs win the AFC West. There's three spots, 3 wild card spots. I don't think the Dolphins are going to take a spot over the Broncos, the Chargers, the Bengals, or the Steelers. So there's 3 spots. That's 4 teams. Dolphins are 5. 2 of those 5 teams are going to be left out of the equation. And we both know, due to the mediocrity of the league, that there is an abundance of turnover year to year at the wild card position. So there's going to be one team, let's just say for fun, it's not going to happen, but the Jacksonville Jaguars or someone crazy that wouldn't have, like, that you would have no business there, that are going to be fighting for that last wild card spot as well. So, hey, maybe it is the Dolphins, right? Because with what the roster looks like, it doesn't look good. I just think I almost feel like the roster that he's given this year, I don't see how it's going to match up against some of these other teams where I can expect him to make the playoffs. But it should be that he should be in that playoff conversation at the end of the year with those 5 teams or some other, like, teams alike, where they're battling it out to get in.
Right. And you're not wrong. I just feel like the year that they made the playoffs, they were still offensive driven, right? Like, so
yes.
I don't remember their defense being stellar. I remember them being in a lot of shootouts and winning. So if you had to give me that, aside from the Jonnu Smith, which I think is a huge loss, I still think they have enough pieces where they can be explosive offensively.
Yeah.
Defensively is where they're going to struggle. But
you're going to have to put up a lot of points.
But to your point, those other teams that would make the wild card, I feel like they're in tougher divisions, man. And I think if teams start beating up on each other, it gives the Dolphins a chance.
And that was going to be my other caveat, and I completely agree. You're playing the New York Jets twice. You're playing the New England Patriots twice. Okay? If you can at least sweep one of those teams, split with another, and who knows, you might get lucky with the Bills. But we're saying you should at least go 500 in your division this year if you're the Miami Dolphins. You need to go 500. If you're going less than 500 this year, you're not going to compete with those other wild card teams.
Correct.
Because now that's where you're going to have to get a lot of your wins in the division because you're in a weaker division.
Yeah.
So, and then just for conversation's sake, let's see. The Dolphins are, sure enough, let's see what division they're playing heavily this year. They are playing, they're all over. Oh, no, they're playing, so they have to win their division, bro. They're playing the AFC North. So they got the Ravens, they got the Steelers, right? They got the Browns, I mean, whatever. But and then they play it. I mean, it's funny. You can make the argument both ways, but then they're also playing the NFC South, a weaker division in the NFL. So, right. So I think if you're winning games in your division and you're out of conference games, which unfortunately for them don't weigh as heavy as the in-conference games, but if you win those two, you got a chance.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying there's a chance?
There's a chance, brother. So, listen, I really hope that that's the case. I guess that will remain to be seen. Any other last-minute thoughts on the breaking news blockbuster trade made earlier today?
No. I think that's good. I think that this just gets me more excited for the season to come and kind of see how all this pans out, because there wasn't a lot of expectations or drama with either team before this trade happened. Now, okay. Let's see what's to come of this. I think Steelers, you got to put up or shut up. And Dolphins, man, time's running out, man. You better show us something. So, good stuff.
I can't completely agree. And I certainly don't want to rush our summer away, but 10 more Sundays to regular season football.
Hell yeah.
So, gear up. It's coming. Well, we want to thank everyone for tuning in for today's episode on our breaking news on the blockbuster trade. Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith going from the Dolphins to the Steelers, and the Dolphins receiving Minkah Fitzpatrick. And there are picks that were traded as well. We want to have everyone tune in for our show next week, 7 p.m. We're going to be discussing Hall of Fame, class 2025, who's going in, who missed the cut. We're going to give you our thoughts. Until then, everyone have a happy 4th of July. For Dr. MJB, the legend, I'm Dr. Mikey B. We'll see everyone next week.